What's up everyone? In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through two recent murals that I did for the Mur Salon. They're a hair salon that has an upper level and they're about to open their lower level. So let's check these walls out and see what I did. All right, so this was the picture that I was sent from the owner and I am just focused on the area above. Now this salon was named after the owner's dog, Murray. So it is named the Mur Salon and we thought it would be kind of fun to make a mermaid. I made this sketch in my iPad Pro using Procreate. Now I planned on projecting, but when I got to the spot, it was a little too bright, so I decided to make a doodle grid instead. If you're not familiar with a doodle grid, it's basically just a helpful way to map out your reference picture. Using a graphite stick, I mapped out a bunch of letters and numbers and symbols on the wall. From there, I took a photo of the wall with my cell phone. Once I had my photo, I opened the app called Doodle Grid. The app will ask for your canvas, which is the photo of the wall. From there, you can upload your reference photo of your artwork. Then I hit move and I'm able to resize my reference photo over the photo of the wall. Once I place my reference exactly where I want it, I'm also able to tap opacity and lower the opacity of the reference. Lastly, I screenshot the image and I'm able to see my doodle grid I created through my reference photo. So if I zoom in, I could see that the left eye is right around the K, the L, and the M, and that's exactly where I'm going to start. It's basically a map and kind of like a fun game of connect the dots. And eventually, the more lines you add, the more the picture comes together, and it's just an easier way to map it out. You could see I'm constantly looking back at my phone to make sure that I'm zooming in on the areas that I'm focused on. Being able to zoom in on a photo like this is super helpful because I'm no longer seeing the full picture and thinking about how this dog is coming out on the wall. I'm just seeing everything as the shapes that they are. And now that this image is almost done being mapped out on the wall, it's time for my favorite part of doing indoor projects and murals for people, the prep work. So this wall actually had this funny lip that hung in front of it, and I wanted to make sure I protected that and didn't get any overspray on it, because to be honest, I knew this place was getting repainted, but I didn't have any of the paint they were doing, and I didn't want to have the painter that was coming in have to do any extra work to clean up any of my mistakes. There's no other way around saying this part is just tedious and it just sucks every time. I'm a huge fan of the show Dexter. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Guys, there's absolutely no way that Dexter had the time to prep those rooms and do all that plastic and taping on. It's just not possible. It took me so long. I hate prep work so much. But let me show you guys exactly what I did. I'll show you my little fort for the day so that you guys have a better understanding of what I'm in for. All right, so there's construction going on outside. It's a little loud, but when we go through the plastic here, we can see got the mural going here. Got all my paint mapped out for the day. There's paint in the crate, layers of it. There's paint in the backpack, and there's paint in this bag as well. And then I've got my fan set up. Well, it's not set up anymore. I kicked it over, but it is blowing out this door where it gets very loud. So as I usually do, I am working on my background first, trying to bring my furthest point to completion and just work up layers and get closer and closer to the foreground so things are a little more defined the closer the viewer gets to the imagery. Basically, I am just trying to create a depth of field. I am leaving things a little softer in the background, not as hard lined, and once I get to the foreground, I will line things a little thicker and cleaner and just make it look a little more crisp. Now, one of the problems that I knew I would face with this wall as opposed to other walls that I've done in the past is that the character is going to be much smaller than I'm used to. A lot of times when people might see pictures of my work, they may assume that the characters aren't as large as they are, but most of my characters, I mean, sometimes the head is bigger than me altogether. And I've actually painted this dog before for the owner at one of her other locations in Brantford, which will be closing. So that is why we're doing this new location. But you could see looking at this photo that the ceilings are roughly 9 feet tall. So you can imagine just the head of that dog is probably 6 times the size of the head of the dog that I'm painting currently in the new location. The new location is on Main Street in Brantford, and we wanted to keep it a little more classy, not as punk rock, but stay tuned for the second mural that we're doing for the lower level of this salon because we're going to bring a little more edge to the lower level. You guys should know by now, whatever I paint is going to probably look a little goofy and silly. So why not make a dog as a mermaid? Especially when the dog's name is Murray. That's just a perfect opportunity for a good pun. On a random side note, at this point, I actually debated while I was working on the seashells, or if you want to call it a bathing suit top, a bra. I'm not really sure what the Little Mermaid had. But anyways, I debated on doing 3 of them because I think dogs have, is it 6 nipples or 8 nipples? If you're still watching, let me know in the comments. Now, if you've followed my videos for a long time, you know that I like to start on the higher parts and work my way down the wall, just in case there's drips that happen. I also talk a lot about trying to get the strenuous areas out of the way first, meaning get all the up and down ladder portions over with so that you can kind of reward yourself on the ground later. Now, it's kind of funny that over time, I have changed my strategy a little bit, only because I feel like if I had knocked out the face on this, you guys might not care to stick around for the body. And it's just kind of something funny that I wanted to point out that I've noticed about my own work is I save certain sections. I do certain things to get the, I guess we'll say, not as exciting parts out of the way first, and then save the better parts till the end. And I think for me, it's kind of fun too, because as an artist, you know, if I knocked out the face first and did all those nice details, I might not care as much about the rest of the artwork leading on after that just to get it done. But if I save some of the most detailed sections till the end, I feel like I still give it my all continuously throughout the piece. But as always, if you happen to be an artist watching yourself, I always invite you to let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you like to work? Do you like to get the most detailed portions out of the way? Do you like to save them? Do you just kind of work around the whole artwork while you're going, like start in the upper left corner, move to the right, move down and around the canvas. How do you typically do your artwork? I'm always curious. We're all here to learn. So if you have a certain, technique that you prefer, let us know in the comments. And if you don't really know what your technique is, I invite you to start studying that. I think that that's something important, is trying to figure out what kind of things you do in your own work to either be more efficient, or, if you get stuck, it's just helpful later. Like, what did I do on the last piece? How do I get myself out of this rut? I think having that self-awareness about your own art is very important. I know that I've learned so much about my own work from opening my work to be critiqued by students and other people. And when they point things out or ask me why I did something, you're kind of on the spot and you have to come up with an answer. And to be honest, they're always honest answers when people ask me these things. I always try my best to not make something up, but it makes you think, why do I do that? And then the next time I might be stuck on an area, I think, oh yeah, this is what I do, and that makes the most sense. Layer by layer, this piece is coming together more and more. It is starting to take shape and come to life, and I'm going to show you the entire wall at the end of this video, because we have a whole nother mural to get to. But what's different about this mural is, instead of painting it on the spot, the owner asked me if I would paint on plywood, just in case, so that if she ever left this studio, she would be able to take the piece of art with her. Now, to fit the area that this new artwork was going into, it would actually require 2 pieces of plywood to be cut that were going to be installed side by side. It's made my job a little more difficult, but let's go over to my backyard and see how I did it. The first step, of course, was to make sure that I prepped the board by slapping a layer of paint on it so the spray paint would layer smoothly on top of it. Once each plywood board was properly prepped, I leaned them up against my wall in my backyard. I used my projector to project an image of the dog that I had made days earlier onto the wall. I traced the image out using an acrylic paint marker. I had the boards leaned against the wall, but I knew that that wouldn't be a final solution for painting it. I needed the plywood boards to be flat against the wall while I painted them. I couldn't risk anything being off when the owner installed them in her salon later. I decided I would buy some clamps and attach the boards to the top of my wall. It worked, and it was time to color this thing in. As I mentioned earlier, we were able to go a little more edgy on the lower location where this mural was going, so we brought back the mohawk, or as I'm going to call it, the murhawk. I was really stoked to do this one because this is kind of what I do with my art, a little more kind of character added to the character, if that makes sense. Giving some human characteristics, attributes to just kind of make it a little more goofy. Not that a mermaid dog wasn't goofy enough and didn't have attributes, it's just, this is a little more my style, what I'm used to, and it kind of matched the original studio piece that I had painted for the owner. And again, looking back at the original piece I had done, it's still so much larger than this piece that I'm working on now. The head is probably twice the size of this one in the original. but still having a lot of fun on this one. I still love the original one as well. So it's kind of sad to see it go, but here's to the future, and here's to a new studio that I am so stoked to have been a part of. Side note, if you are curious about the graffiti section that is behind the artwork I'm working on, I do not have a video on that. There are not pictures posted except for on my Patreon. I always try to post things on my Patreon before I show the general public anything that I'm working on. And sometimes Patreon gets to see things that are never posted because of whatever reason. If something didn't happen or, project fell through. It's pretty funny that looking back while I was editing this video, I realized that the first mural was actually done back in May. And it's pretty much, in a couple days, it's October. So Patreon did get to see the first portion of this mural back in May. Here we are months and months later, seasons later, entering fall. And you guys get to see this now. So it might be worth checking out my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description of this video for anyone that may want to join. There's multiple tiers to check out different things I offer. And on that note, I want to go ahead and thank my paid Patreon members now. Thank you guys. You guys rock. Another way, of course, to help support me is to check out my website. That's kbuart.com. I've got my new coloring book available and plenty of merch. There are some new prints to check out. I'm constantly trying to update this, so check it out. Maybe pick yourself up something. There's plenty more than what's being shown on the screen. There's plenty of original artwork. There's prints. There's apparel. So check it out. And if you get something, I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Being able to do this mural in my own backyard was pretty fun because I didn't really have to plan the colors ahead of time. I was able to kind of make everything up on the spot because I had my paint right behind me in my house. And of course I knew the colors of the dog because I had reference photos, but I decided to go a little more teal with the background. I know in the upstairs location of this salon, the owner wanted to try to keep it a little more pastel colors that she had picked out. And for the lower location, we were going to keep it a little more of the vibe of the first salon that I had painted. So she had requested a little more neon, just kind of go crazy and have fun with it. So having this teal color in the background, I thought it'd be awesome to just do this like hot pink hair dye. So you could see it on the brush now. You'll also see it in the mixing bowl in a little bit. I didn't want to replay it in the hair, so I picked green for the hair. And because of the teal, I wanted to get another nice complementary color going. So eventually you'll see that the apron is yellow. And sometimes when you're picking colors, you have to make certain choices, such as, okay, I know that I have the pink hair dye, and the pink hair dye is pretty close to the tongue when you look at the bowl that's on the right side. So I knew that there was going to be pink hair dye there, and there was pink hair dye in the brush. And I didn't want to overkill it with it, so I decided to go with a different tone of pink for the tongue. So there's a little more of a muted color on the tongue, a little more of a fluorescent color to the hair dye. This is something to be aware of, is tone and just value, where if you're worried about breaking things up from color to color, you can also break them up from tones of the color. You don't have to think like, okay, yellow goes with blue, blah, blah, blah. You could just get some off tones, and you'll also see I was a little hesitant about doing yellow, but I really wanted some bright yellow to pop off the blue. But I knew that the yellow was going to be kind of close to the beige that I had used in the dog. So when making these decisions, I try to base them off just thinking in contrast as much as possible, whether it's through color or whether it's through value or tone of the color. I had mentioned earlier that I've been kind of working around the artwork instead of finishing portions at a time, just for the viewer, for you guys to see this. So instead of going right into the eyes and having the whole face done, I saved the eyes till the end. And you've heard me say it before, but I saved the eyes because I feel like that's where all the life of the character is. So instead, I moved along to the apron. In a second here, you will see me get into the hair dye bowl and the paw that's holding it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I think it's just enjoyable to save the eyes till the end and just really do those final touches and bring the character to life. Another thing I want to point out is the fact that there are two boards that are attached to my wall. And you can see at the bottom, it's kind of like splitting. The boards were very, very thin. So I don't want to use the word warped because they didn't really warp too much, but they were like, the right one is kind of coming off the wall a little bit. And that just added another challenge, but it wasn't too crazy. I just kind of pushed the board down when I had to make a line across both of them. And luckily it all worked out because, again, one of my fears was when the owner goes to attach this to her wall, if it doesn't line up perfectly, the whole thing's going to look off. And we'll just have to wait until the end of the video to see the walkthrough and see how this thing came out when it was attached inside the salon. So at this point, you're going to see that I'm going back and forth from the paw to the eyes. And one of the reasons for that is because when you're working in such a small section with spray paint, you don't want to keep layering too much while it's still wet. So because I was coloring the tiny little section of the eyes, I was letting it dry and then I was going back to the paw. And then I'd put another layer of a lighter brown in the eyes. I'm trying to kind of work up from a darker brown to like a nice light hazel. And then once the light hazel has dried completely, I can grab a can of black and I can add the pupils. From there, it is my favorite last little detail. Of course, the little white shines in the eyes to give it that cute, adorable little wet shine look. And now it's time to take a walk through the hair salon and see the final outcome. As I said earlier, this is the Mur on Main location for the Mur Salon in Branford, Connecticut. This is the upper level where they do amazing things with hair. At the time of filming, they were still working on finishing the lower level, but we're going to go down and take a look. There is a little writing that I added in the stairwell here, just letting you know that you're in the lower level. And we're going to take a look at the artwork that was installed that I did in my backyard. I believe they're still building a frame to put around this, and they will have the lower level finished shortly, so be sure to check them out. As always, thanks so much, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.